This young woman had experienced some recent trouble in her life, but she had started to turn a corner and get her life back together. That is, until a chance encounter would change everything. The audio in this case is some of the most chilling ever heard in any criminal investigation. We would like to send our condolences to the family and loved ones of Lea Porter. Lea Porter was a family-oriented person who was raised in Pueblo, Colorado. As she grew up, Lea and her brother Maxx were inseparable. They would do everything together, and her brother was always there to protect her and look out for her. Lea loved taking selfies, and her mother would even tease her about this. Messaging, posting on Facebook, her mother said her phone was surgically attached to her. Maxx and Lea had the same circle of friends and would hang out with each other all of the time, never tiring of each other's company. As they went through school, their bond would strengthen even further. While they had their own hobbies, they would still find time after school to hang out and even help each other with homework. Maxx graduated from Cotopaxi High School and decided to pursue a career in massage therapy. Lea couldn't wait to follow suit, and when she finally graduated, she enrolled at the same college and the same course as Maxx. The two continued through college, much the same as they had in school, hanging out together and generally having the same friends. The day came when Maxx graduated from college, and it was time for him to start forging a career. Maxx took a job that was a long distance from Lea, and not having her brother there for her support started taking a toll on her. Lea had lost her best friend and her brother, and it was the first time in her life when he wasn't around. Unbeknown to everyone around her, this would start a tragic chain of events. Friends and family began to notice a change in Lea. She was not the same happy and cheerful person she once was. She started becoming somewhat of a social recluse. During this time, she met a 38-year-old Jessie McSorley. Jessie, who was double Lea's age, was a tattoo artist and a frequent drug user. McSorley had introduced Lea to heroin, and her downward spiral began. She dropped out of college and moved in with Jessie, where they spent most of their days getting high. Lea had confided in friends that she was now a heroin addict, and many of them were stunned. The bright, intelligent, happy girl was now just a shell of her former self. After a turbulent 6-month relationship, Lea decided to break things off with Jessie and attempt to get her life back on track. With the breakup, Jessie kicked Lea out of his house, and she was now homeless. She decided to move to Denver and attempt to leave her troubled past behind. Lea posted this message on Facebook and got a message from someone she didn't expect. Christopher Waide sent Lea a message. The two had known each other in high school, but had not spoken in some time. Eventually, Lea opened up to him and told him about her struggles with drug addiction and the fact she was homeless. Christopher offered to help Lea and even provide emotional support if she felt the need to use again. Being a kind friend, he even offered to help her move her belongings to a friend's house and had offered Lea a place to stay in the meantime. Lea texted her mother, Renee Jackson, to let her know she was going to Christopher's apartment on June the 3rd. The day had come and gone, and Lea's brother Maxx had been trying to call Lea. It was very out of character for her to be uncontactable. She would frequently update her Facebook page several times a day and text and call family members regularly. 2 days after she lost contact with anybody, her family reported Lea Porter missing to the police. Immediately, suspicion fell upon her ex-boyfriend Jessie. Police brought him in for questioning, but he told them the last time he saw her was when he met her at a motel. After many hours of questioning and confirming his alibi, they let him go. Renee and Maxx made an impassioned plea on a news channel, asking for Lea's return.
I don't want anybody to hurt her. I just want her to home safe. And she's just a little tiny little thing.
If she's out there somewhere, to please come home to us. We need her Everybody needs her.
Lee's mother now began to look at her phone records, and one number kept popping up. That was from Christopher Waide. She had never really heard of him before, but decided to ring Christopher and ask where Lee was, and he claimed she left his apartment on the 3rd after receiving a phone notification. Christopher had told her he was her accountability partner and filled her in on Lee's drug taking, which Renee had not heard of before. Christopher Waide was 23 at the time of Lee's disappearance. He was a top student at school and was a shy, socially awkward person who was regularly teased for being different. One time, other students discovered a journal in which he wrote about his dark and often violent sexual fantasies, leading to further bullying against him. Waide would graduate and then move on to the military after school. He would serve 2 years before being discharged due to chronic sleeping problems and violent tendencies. He would then go on to study and eventually earn a major in criminal justice, aiming to become a police officer. It seemed that Christopher genuinely cared for Lee, even posting on Facebook asking for Lee to come back. Meanwhile, Lee's family were getting desperate and started posting missing persons flyers around the neighborhood. Police were still suspicious and decided to carry out a search of Christopher's apartment. It was filthy, with litter and drink bottles everywhere. His bed could be seen on the floor without sheets or a pillow cover, and the smell inside of the place was abhorrent. Many officers commented that they could only spend short amounts of time in the apartment before having to exit to get some fresh air. Investigators located a small knife, which appeared to have bleach stains on it. They also found a receipt for bleach and rubber gloves purchased at a 7-Eleven. Police went to the 7-Eleven and were able to obtain CCTV footage which showed Waide purchasing the products. They confiscated Waide's computer, which showed searches for child pornography and other violent sex sites. Police now brought Waide in for questioning. He had told investigators a similar story to what he told Lee's mother, Renee. Explaining the knife, he said he had cut his hands several weeks back and decided on cleaning the knife with bleach. He said on the day he was with Lee, the two went out to get something to eat, which can be seen on the CCTV footage. They then returned to his apartment to play video games. Unexpectedly, she leaned in and kissed him, which he wasn't expecting. But he kissed her back, and that eventually led to the two having sex. This was a rather odd statement, given that Lee made it known to Christopher previously that she wasn't interested in a relationship. He said that shortly after that was when Lee received a notification on her phone and left. Police were starting to gather evidence, but were unable to extract a confession from Christopher. Lee's brother Maxx couldn't help but feel Christopher had something to do with her disappearance. Knowing Waide was an avid tarot card reader, he devised a plan. He came together with Lee's ex-boyfriend Jesse and rang Christopher asking if they could have a reading to help with locating Lee. He was sympathetic with Waide and befriended him in order to not get him offside. Waide was excited and appeared to be relishing having a new friend. Christopher, wanting to appear to be helping in any way possible, obliged and agreed to meet Maxx and Jesse to carry out the reading. Waide carried out the reading, starting to explain the meaning of each card as it came out and what his theory was.
This isn't the best reading, the best omen for a reading I've done, but it is fairly positive. I don't see any indication of anything who would want anything or anyone who would want to harm her or physically impede her in any way. But I do see that when she's coming out of this, she'll be the better for it. I don't know about different, but I think that she will be a changed woman when she comes out of it. It's the only card that has any bad, I guess you could say bad omen would be the Two of Swords. The Five of Wands is a neutral omen, but it indicates paranoia, so she might be feeling really scared right now, but the Three of Pentacles and the Lovers are both very positive, as is the Six of Pentacles. So I would say there's every chance when she's found, it'll be safe and sound.
What he didn't know was Maxx was recording the entire conversation. As the conversation went on, Maxx steered the conversation toward Lea and what happened to her. He was persistent, and that persistence was about to pay off.
Chris,
Mm-hmm.
I have one more favor to ask of you.
Okay.
Not as a suspect and family sitting here,
Mm-hmm.
but as friends and acquaintances and a group of people that used to know each other and all
Yeah.
Are worried about this girl that's missing.
Yeah.
Instead of me and Maxx, maybe badgering you with questions,
Mhm.
would you just tell all of us as friends, like once and for good, like just what happened that day while she was there, when she got to your house, and just what took place
Okay.
for our peace of mind?
All right.
I'm confused why you told me you can't talk about all this. And you're talking about all this. I mean, it's good that
Yeah,
you
I
are.
know.
It's good that you are. But they would tell me not to talk to you. They wouldn't tell you not to talk to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
It's hard to explain the things that go on in my head sometimes to someone else, but
Chris, your stories, they didn't add up at all. Not one. You told different things to other people. If you had something not to hide, you would have told the truth the whole time. You're up.
Why did you keep things back
Why
the
did-
first time you told this story?
I will be going forward with the police about this. I haven't yet because I'm trying to find the right way to do it, so
This is the right way right
yeah.
now. This is it.
right way.
This is it.
I know. But what I say right now, it's going to be very hard, but until I come forward with them to it, it'll be within the week, I swear to you. But I'm gonna have to ask you to keep it to yourselves until then.
You tell me right now what happened to my sister. You know what happened to my sister.
Yes,
You know if she's alive or if she's dead. You know.
I do. Unlike in my original story, afterwards, she wasn't tired and didn't ask to pass out. She tried to use that to manipulate. She wasn't yelling, but she was very venomous. And she grabbed the knife that I keep by my by my bed. And when we go back, I can show it to you.
What happened with the knife?
She grabbed it and pulled it out and tried to attack me, saying that she would stop attacking me if I agreed to buy drugs for her. I don't know, but there was desperation in her eyes.
She wouldn't do that, dude. She wouldn't do that, Chris. Stop lying. She
I'm
wouldn't do
not
that.
lying.
She wouldn't do that.
Keep going.
Keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm just over.
I am not lying.
Okay.
She thrust at me twice. I dodged the first one, then I grabbed her hand on the second. And when she thrust again, I turned, grabbed her, then stepped forward and twisted her around so that her body was in between me and the knife. And then I placed my hand at her throat. I didn't start squeezing until after she kept going. I said, we can end this right now. There will be enough. I won't say anything to anyone. Just please drop the knife, and I'll let you go. You can get dressed. You can leave and go wherever. And she said that she would stop when either she was dead or if I agreed to buy her drugs. I told her I did not want that. I told her straight up to please stop and get dressed and go. But she used both of her arms to push against me with the knife, trying to cut my arm to get me to let go so she could keep attacking. So I started squeezing on her throat. Honestly, I thought that her muscles would relax when she went unconscious, and that I could gradually move the knife away and let her go and let her regain consciousness, but that didn't happen. I've been running through my head trying to figure out why. She kept on fighting and fighting. I kept on telling her to drop the knife and I would stop. Drop the knife and I'll stop. You can, and I will leave the room. I'll be waiting out in the patio. You can get dressed. You can go. I'll stop talking to you completely. But she kept shaking her head no. Adrenaline was rushing through. I didn't see her stop shaking her head, but she was still pushing against my hand. So, but then it was like a rubber band snapped and it just went completely lax, and it took me completely by surprise, and I ended up cutting her. It wasn't very deep. It was about an inch and a half cut along her sternum. That took me completely by surprise, and I dropped her. She landed on the floor. I turned her over to check and make sure she was still alive. I didn't check on her throat because I had just been grabbing there, so I didn't think I could get a clear reading off of that. So I checked her wrists, and when I didn't find anything there, I checked under her arms and then the inside of her legs as well. And I keep going back and thinking I could have handled that better, but I just panicked. After she went limp and I checked the pulse and didn't find anything.
So you couldn't call the cops though? You didn't
Honestly, I was...
Like, bring her back, or did she...
Well, hold on.
Yeah, what happened after she went limp?
After she went limp and I checked the pulse and didn't find anything, I'll admit it, I flat out panicked. After I was coherent enough to start functioning again, I'll admit it, I wasn't rational, and I did things that I should not have. I should not have done it, but I covered everything up. I took her body and I put her clothes back on. Then I laid her on my bed and covered her in a blanket while I was trying to figure out what to do. I didn't wrap her in them or anything like that. I put a bag over her head just because even though I kept whispering to her, I'm sorry it came to this, Lea, I'm sorry. I was sobbing it to her while I was doing this. I felt guilty over what had happened. After I got rid of her, I didn't want the smell to attract anyone, and they were those odor control trash bags, so I figured I'd lay a couple over her. I put a bag over her head, and then I placed two on top of her. Afterwards, my roommate walked in. He was early, and I just told him that I had a guest over and that she was sleeping. Before he had got home, I had used some rags to clean up the blood, and I put those into a grocery bag, and I put that into the duffel bag with her. I carried it out, and at first I tried the waiting game. When 2 o'clock in the morning rolled around and he hadn't gone to sleep, I decided to try and sneak it past him. I was taking it out. I don't think he would have noticed if I hadn't said anything, but in case he did notice, I just said I was taking something to my car. But I didn't take her to my car. I knew that if I was gone for any length of time, he'd get suspicious. So I did the only thing I could think of, and God help me, I put her in the dumpster. I know you won't believe me, but I will be turning myself in to the police. I will tell them...
No, you're going to jail right now. You're going to prison right now. Where do you think you're going, man? You think I'm just going to let you walk away and drive away? You killed my goddamn sister. No, you need wait for...
Come on, let's...
Get my phone, get out of it. All this recorded. Call the cops. They're already on their way.
After hearing the gruesome details of what had occurred to his sister, Maxx got up and punched Waide in the face. Following the grisly meeting, they allowed Waide to confess the crime to the police. Dispatchers received this 911 phone call from Christopher Waide.
I confessed to a murder.
Okay. What happened?
The case is for the disappearance of Lea Porter.
He was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, sexual assault, tampering with evidence, and for the child pornography found on his computer. Waide agreed to plead guilty as part of the plea deal offered by prosecutors. The deal consisted of him leading authorities to the location of Lea Porter's body. He confessed to the crime, and then explained how he disposed of Lea in a dumpster. Authorities would spend the next 40 days searching through a landfill in order to try and locate her body. While they were able to locate her phone and some personal belongings, they were unable to locate Lea's body. Christopher Waide was sentenced for the brutal crime and received 48 years in prison. While Lea Porter's family have not yet been able to lay their daughter to rest, they were able to receive some justice. This was in part due to the incredible work done by Maxx in extracting the confessing from Waide. His dedication to his sister did not stop, even when her death was being described in detail by her killer. To this day, Lea Porter's body has yet to be located, and the family hopes that one day they are able to give their beautiful daughter and sister the goodbye she deserves. And that wraps up today's case. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then check out one of these 2 other videos on screen that you may find interesting. We look forward to bringing you another worst case very soon.